And today's topic is expand to include. So we hear about letting go, letting go, letting go. And today we're going to talk instead about expanding to include and how these very different approaches actually lead us to the same outcome. But before we get started speaking about it or having this conversation, let's just take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everyone else who's joining us. So we hear about letting go. Just let go. In order to let go, we need to open our hands, right? And I find that I know we've spoken about this before, but I find that in our Western culture, at least, we are not acclimated to letting go. We are oriented toward acquisition and gathering in rather than letting go. It's just not really part of our cultural orientation to let go. So I realized that expanding to include is something, a concept anyway, and I think a practice that is more readily accessible to us. And it just makes so much sense to me. So if I'm expanding to include something, again, I'm living with open hand to be able to receive and to be able to hold all of it, right? To be able to expand into experiencing and owning. This is another part that's so important, I think. When we talk about letting go, and maybe it's our Western mind that is interpreting that way, or maybe it's just my Western mind that interprets it this way. But when I think about letting go, it's like there's a judgment on the thing we're letting go. Like we need to release attachment to everything and anything. And what I think works more effectively for me anyway, and I invite you to try it on, is to expand to include all these things, all these aspects, all these elements, all these experiences such that we're not judging them. We can't be as attached to any of it when we are expanding to include all of it. So it's having the same effect, letting go the grip of something because we're expanding to include it. And this way, what we're doing is moving into wholeness rather than the void of nothingness. We're expanding into an experience of greater wholeness and inclusiveness and acceptance of these parts that we might otherwise have judged and exiled or reviled or rejected, right? As not worthy or undesirable in some way, shape, or form. When we expand to include, we're stepping into an open-handed receiving and acceptance of all things. We're opening our hearts, we're opening our lives, we're opening our arms to expanding to include all of it. And I just see so often in our culture of self-development and personal evolution how we operate from a space of brokenness, the assumption of brokenness. And I can say, certainly from my own experience, that so much of my life I experienced myself as broken. And so much of my effort was directed at fixing myself, getting fixed and fixing myself, rather than a space of presence and choice and awareness and acceptance. And this notion of brokenness and fixing in its foundation is founded in a rejection of ourselves and the way things are. When we expand to include, it gives us access, I think, to the communications of our body, of our minds, of our emotions, of life itself, to be an experience of engagement, an experience of personal growth and evolution, if we allow for that to be. Life as teacher, but all aspects of life as teacher. So this idea of brokenness is where we're making judgments of certain ways of being and certain aspects of experience as there's something wrong with that, rather than maybe it's a communication, maybe it's an opportunity. And I think we get to acknowledge that going the way that we've gone as a species, even, but as a culture, to be going in the direction that we've been going is a zero-sum game, that that we can't get to where we want to be going the way we've gone. It's kind of like the insanity of thinking that somehow we'll be able to find peace through war. that it's kind, or that will end war through war. It's kind of its own insanity, right? And by rejecting these aspects of ourselves, of our beings, like experiencing pain and just wanting it to stop. I get it. I totally get experiencing pain and just wanting it to stop, wanting it to go away. So we medicate, or we do different things to make the pain disappear. But what if instead we were to expand to include, rather than trying to let it go, get rid of it? And maybe that's a misinterpretation of let it go, but that's what part of my mind hears. I don't know if that's so for you, but instead to experience the pain as a communication, physical pain or emotional pain as an opportunity and a communication to recognize something that we might not otherwise have been aware of, that we can actually engage with these sensations, these experiences, as an invitation to greater personal exploration and development, to greater awareness. I mean, think about it. If your body had something to say to you, how could it communicate to you? How could it communicate that there's something going on? It's going to be through sensation. And what I'm there's a premise to this that I guess needs to be spoken to, and that is, what if the body is not something that is separate from us and our being and our consciousness and our evolution? What if it's not just a vehicle that we're riding in, but what if it is an integral part of our experience? Because it is, like, we can't separate ourselves from our bodies, actually. I mean, yes, we could have astral projection, and it's sort of the body that's facilitating that experience also. But it's not like this body that we have is something other. We and our experience of life and consciousness are inextricably linked and tied and connected with this physical form. And so there's an intelligence to the physical form, just as there is an intelligence to our emotions. They are not separate from us. And when we can expand to include them and interact with their intelligence in a dynamic way, then we have access to so much, a greater wellspring of wisdom and understanding and wholeness. So I think we're taught to override our body, find our body as an inconvenience in so many ways, where we're going to figure out how to dominate and control it, just the way that we dominate and control the rest of nature, to whip it into shape, to follow our will, when instead, as we're raising a greater awareness of the necessity to partner with nature. Well, our body is also nature. We are also nature. And so we try to dominate and control our bodies just like we try to dominate and control nature. And what if we were to live in harmony with our body? What would it look like? It might look like listening. It might look like reverence and honor and respect for this other dimension of intelligence that is accessible to us if we can expand to include it. It was a conversation with a client who's very oriented toward sustainability and regeneration, where they had a revelation in this conversation we were having about our physicalness and this notion of dominating and controlling and just wanting the pain, for instance, to go away, rather than exploring what the communication was from that pain, what might be gleaned, what might be learned. And so often the physical experiences that we have are an outpicturing of psyche, experiences of the psyche or of emotion that is then registering in our physical experience and expression, because fundamentally we are energetic. Fundamentally, we exist in an energetic realm. And everything is energy, and our physicalness is just more compressed, condensed, crystallized energy. So when we experience physical sensations, those physical sensations are often tied to this emotional experience as well. And when we allow our awareness to recognize and respond or be curious to our experience or about our experience, like what's going on here? Is there something for me to know? What can I learn from this? What is that experience? When we allow that, life becomes, life in its many dimensions becomes an even more powerful teacher. And I guess maybe the premise that I've not spoken yet is the premise that we're here to learn, that we're here to evolve somehow, that we're here to open our conscious awareness and experience into a dimension, an expanded dimension of expression. I see myself as a perpetual learner. Like that's what my life is about, is it's always about learning. It's not about mastery. It's about evolution. It's about the process itself. It's about expanding. And this path of awakening into the fullest possible awareness of what we're here for, or what life is about, or any of that stuff that goes beyond knowing, that goes into an experience. Like this life is an experience, and it's time delimited. This sojourn that each of us have here on on this planet through our lives. It's a blink in the context of the universe, right? And so what is it about? And part of me believes that it's really just about the experience. And we spend so much time trying not to experience the experience. You know, when we have pain, we want to ignore it or make it go away. Whereas one of the ways that we can interact with it is to step more deeply into the experience of it. And when we do step into that experience, what happens is that it it dissolves ultimately, because maybe pain is a congestion of energy. And when we can allow ourselves to actually experience it, one of the things that I do for myself and have taught clients to do, which is so powerful and effective, is to step into the physicalness, step into the experience of the sensation rather than trying to dull the pain or avoid the pain or ignore the pain, to actually step into that sensation, to breathe into it, to follow it, to trace it. And what seems to happen as a result of that is that that energy then has an opportunity to move and to dissolve and to disperse. And very often, the pain, the sensation that we called pain, disappears, dissipates, and moves into something else, leaving a greater freedom of flow of energy. And often in the course of doing that, what happens is that emotion shows up. Emotion gets released too. And emotion is its own energy as well. And we often try to avoid emotions. I'm feeling depressed, for example. So I'm going to just do something to change that feeling into something else rather than experiencing the sensation of that energy, noticing where is it in my body, breathing into it, experiencing the sensation of it. And when we do that, again, that energy most often dissipates, oftentimes with tears. It dissolves the congestion of that energy, creating a greater flow. And as we create this greater flow, this flow of life, this open passageway, so to speak, what happens is that life flows more freely, that our personal expression flows more freely. We can be more present to life as process, that we can experience that openness, the freedom that is not obstructed by these energetic congestions. And yet, in exploring those energetic congestions, not trying to make sense of it, not trying to explain it, not trying to justify it, but by just experiencing it, where is it in our body? What's the sensation? What do I notice as I'm present to it? What's shifting? Just that presence allows us, I think it does allow us to connect with ourselves as these energetic beings that then, as these obstructions clear, we can be more connected to ourselves and to others and to life itself, to the process of life itself, to the unfoldment of life itself. And so expanding to include, when we allow all of it, really what we're looking at is allowing and not making our experience wrong, not exiling parts of ourselves, not rejecting certain experience as bad or unacceptable or unworthy, but to be expanding into the whole of ourselves, which isn't bound by this the constraints of this physical form, but expands into life and connection. And so if we're looking to transform the world, then we first get to shift the way we experience it. And when we can experience more of it by allowing that experience rather than walling it off, then we can allow ourselves to be more fully in the flow of that experience and the experience of life itself. So in becoming everything, we become the same nothing as the nothing of letting go and letting go and letting go. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it is a pleasure and a privilege to be with you and to share these morning musings on being human. So until next time, so much love to you.